Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's get right into it. Today, we're putting business operations under the microscope. We're going to diagnose the structural illnesses hiding in your business and prescribe strict protocols for lasting operational transformation. We are going to map out exactly how organizational friction takes root and, much more importantly, how to systematically eradicate it.
Here's our roadmap for today. 1. Diagnosing operating model constraints. 2. The improvement theater failure. 3. Rules for structural transformation. 4. The tool-first trap mechanism. 5. Sequencing, governance, and technology. And finally, 6. Coherent hyperautomation. Let's dive in.
Section 1. Diagnosing operating model constraints. Or, as I like to think of it, when good strategies stall. Let's start by looking at what happens when the very architecture of a business turns against its own growth.
So, why do genuinely sound strategies just stall out in execution? We really have to ask why perfectly capable leaders constantly burn out arbitrating disputes that their own organizational structure actually created. You can have the most flawlessly crafted strategy in the world, but if the foundational blueprint of the company forces every cross-functional decision to become a hostile negotiation, execution is just going to freeze.
Which brings us to operating model constraints. This is the set of repeatable choices about how work gets organized, governed, and rewarded that is now actively working against the company. The crucial point here is that you are not underperforming because people stop trying. It's because your structure, processes, decision rights, and incentives have totally drifted apart. When the constraint is the model itself, all the localized effort in the world will absolutely fail to remove it. You have to identify that systemic roadblock first.
Look at these core elements: strategy, structure, systems, shared values, skills, staff, and style. When you try to change any one of these in total isolation, that misalignment taxes every single initiative you have, literally producing systemic regression rather than progress. This is the exact causal mechanism of organizational stall. You can't adjust strategy without touching structure, or change systems without addressing skills. They are completely interlocked. Treating them as separate silos absolutely guarantees failure. If you've ever tried to change a process and felt like you were walking in quicksand, this is exactly why.
Moving on to Section 2, the improvement theater failure, otherwise known as the illusion of progress. This brings us to a critical misdiagnosis that companies frequently make when they finally feel all this organizational friction.
This is where we explicitly name our first major failure mode: improvement theater. It's the act of running isolated, little improvement projects on a model that actually requires a complete, ground-up redesign. Sure, it feels super productive, and it looks incredibly responsible on a performance review, but it is ultimately a total illusion.
We really need to understand the causal mechanism at play here. Point fixes fail because the surrounding legacy systems naturally pull employee behavior right back to the old equilibrium. Imagine reorganizing a single department but leaving the old incentive plans exactly as they were. Those unaligned incentives are going to drag the new processes right back to the old way of doing things. You aren't actually solving the problem, you are quite literally just relocating the friction.
Section 3. Rules for structural transformation and what we call the CALM test. Let's see how this builds into a clinical framework for deciding exactly what type of intervention your business actually needs.
This gives us strict, concrete, conditional decision rules, so you avoid disrupting operations that are actually functioning just fine. If this observable condition holds, say a performance gap persists across entirely different leadership teams, do this: execute a structural transformation. The same applies if the root causes touch multiple areas like process and incentives. However, if the gap just tracks a single temporary market event, do this instead: execute localized process improvement. Do not invoke a massive transformation without a structural cause. And if you do decide you need a transformation, the sequence is strict and causal. Step 1, structure. 2, process. 3, decision rights. And 4, incentives. Think about it. If you design incentives before processes, you end up rewarding performance in workflows that don't even exist yet. If you assign decision rights before defining the structure, you're attaching authority to organizational boxes that are literally about to move. Each layer absolutely dictates the next.
Which leads us to Section 4, the tool-first trap mechanism. Why software doesn't create desire. As we navigate further, we encounter a massive pitfall when companies attempt to apply technology to these deep structural problems.
We explicitly call this the tool-first trap. This failure mode happens when a company buys a shiny new software platform and mistakenly treats the purchase itself as the transformation. They completely confuse acquiring a software license with actually changing human organizational behavior.
You'll hear this generic advice everywhere in the industry. Buy the software to drive the change. It insists that rapid technology adoption will just magically fix your operational woes. It relies on the completely flawed assumption that if you just hand people a shiny new tool, they will automatically abandon their comfortable legacy workflows.
Well, we must structurally contradict that advice right here and now. Installing software delivers the capability, absolutely, but it completely fails to manufacture the human desire or reinforcement required for actual adoption. The tool provides the knowledge, but human adoption is a social process. Therefore, you must delay the technology purchase. Build the governance first, because software merely wears the costume of transformation. Governance is what does the actual heavy lifting.
Section 5. Sequencing governance and technology. Let's look at the governance stack and the exact protocol for deploying digital change without falling into that tool-first trap.
So here is the stack: an accountable executive sponsor, a lightweight program office, and published adoption metrics. This stack prevents failure by ensuring authority is visible way before resistance even appears, coordination is rhythmic, and success is tied to usage rather than just a meaningless go-live date. An accountable sponsor arbitrates conflicts, a program office supplies the coordination, and adoption metrics convert the vague feeling of transformation into undeniable truth. You have to remember the interdependence here, though. Remove any one of these layers, and the other two instantly collapse.
When rolling it out, the steps are crucial. Step 1, pilot to prove the setup. Step 2, scale and monitor those metrics. And Step 3, land the system until usage is an unbreakable habit. You must land one major system change completely before starting the next. Why? Because human absorption capacity, not capital, is your actual scarce resource. Overlapping software changes violently split your management's attention, and that causes all parallel initiatives to fail entirely.
The sequence of the technology matters just as much. Systems of record absolutely must come before analytics. If you deploy fancy analytics dashboards before cleaning your foundational records, the mechanism of failure is brutally simple. You are just accelerating the spread of untrustworthy data. You must always implement foundational systems of record first, so that your downstream analytical tools actually have clean, governed data to consume. Finally, Section 6, Coherent Hyperautomation, Scaling Operational Coherence. Let's see how all of this foundational alignment sets you up for the ultimate operational scaling.
Once you are structurally sound and governed, you can unleash real speed with hyperautomation. This is the integration of AI, robotic process automation, and machine learning to streamline complex end-to-end business operations. We aren't just talking about automating a single repetitive task here. Hyperautomation is the reward for building a coherent operating model. It turns your aligned structure into an incredibly fast, frictionless machine, executing continuously and autonomously.
But again, we have to apply concrete decision rules. By doing this, you ensure you are only automating optimized workflows, rather than just speeding up broken processes. If this observable condition holds, say a process is strictly rule-based, high volume, and spans multiple systems, do this: deploy full hyperautomation. But if a process requires human empathy or deals with strange edge cases, do this instead: retain human oversight and use AI merely as an assistant. And crucially, if your legacy data is unverified or siloed, do this: halt entirely. Delay automation until data governance is fully resolved.
The overarching takeaway from this entire explainer is this: systems that stay coherent stay calm, and calm systems compound. Governed attention, not just code and software, is what genuinely transforms a business. Automation is merely an amplifier. If your organizational structure is chaotic, technology will only allow you to execute that chaos at light speed. But if your system is aligned, it stays calm, and calm, governed systems just compound their efficiency over time.
So, I want to leave you with this structural challenge. Are you actually engineering structural coherence? Or are you simply using technology to hyper-automate your existing dysfunction? Before you commission your next major initiative, take a hard, clinical look at your operating model. Avoid the improvement theater, build your governance stack, and sequence your changes deliberately. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Now go look at your next tech purchase through this clinical lens.